Returning to helm the project, Danny Boyle revisits this apocalyptic world that he created and we the fans love. 28 Days Later earned its status as a beloved film even for those that aren't the biggest fans of zombie movies. I myself am not really a big fan, but there's no denying the impact 28 Days Later made. You have baby Cillian Murphy introducing one of the most prominent jawlines in modern film. It didn't invent it, but it masterfully used the grainy, almost found footage-esque aesthetic that made the film so haunting and arresting because of how non-Hollywood it felt, and most importantly, these zombies were fast. I mean, 28 Days Later and Dawn of the Dead really set the bar for all future zombies. Nothing to take away from Romero's already established zombies, but these zombies were ravenous and terrifying. The sequel, while certainly not on the same level of quality and effectiveness as the original, it still merited respect for trying to do something with the story that wouldn't necessarily be considered a cash grab move. It was an earnest attempt and honestly wasn't awful either, so I still was very excited for the third installment. It's crazy how this third installment was confirmed since 2007. That's insane that we're just now getting the product 18 years later. It's actually quite hilarious because in a bit of a cynical way, Danny Boyle basically retcons 28 weeks later because of the incident that happened in France just not happening. Post time skip, the film follows a group of survivors of the rage virus. They comfortably live on a small island with the only connection to the outside world being a little land bridge. But one of the survivors believes it's time for his son, the next generation, to learn about the outside world. So together they embark on a journey that will unravel both horrors from the outside as well as horrors on the inside as well. On top of the franchise attachment this film has, I do think Danny Boyle's vision, while not suited for other types of movies, suits these films wonderfully. And knowing Alex Garland was going to be part of the creative team and write this thing was actually very exciting because I adore Annihilation. I love that movie so much. At this point, it is a gimmick, like the whole thing of, oh, it was shot on an iPhone. And like, if you do want to claim that, sure, go ahead. There's a couple of scenes that actually do look like it was shot on an iPhone. Like there's some scenes in town where we're following Aaron Taylor Johnson and Spike, or later in some indoor scenes where it kind of has that like trailing effect that iPhones tend to have. But it's very clearly rigged with a crazy ass system and lenses where it's basically the equivalent of a super expensive camera, like usually used in films. There's a lot of choices made in this movie, to say the least. A lot of quick cuts, hyper editing, sound design that really gives a crunch, especially in the scenes with gore. I'll say without a doubt, I love that even though the movie was made almost 2 decades after its predecessors, it feels like it was only made a year or two after. Boyle's approach is very similar to the first one, especially in that opening shot. You can immediately tell that the bar is set for who's safe and who's not safe. No punches are being held back in 28 years later. The effects are very good in the film, and for as choppy as some of the aggressive editing looks at times, which is a lot of the time, the kills are actually very good, very in line, and delivers what's expected of these movies. And there's a moment in this film that is so incredibly tense and terrifying and genuinely awesome. That thing is tenacious and so durable, it was awesome. Another stylistic choice was the use of red lighting to explain how certain things happened. I thought it was pretty cute and I guess hopeful. Was not a fan of the old film being sliced with modern day footage because it felt more indulgent than anything, but thankfully it did not take up a lot of the screen time. ATJ was great. I love that he plays a father figure, but also representing the many colors that a father can look like. Ray Fiennes, I mean, what can be said that hasn't been said already about the man? He's just a delight to see on screen. He's so good at being a weirdo without outright being the weirdo of the movie. Jodie Comer was also really good as she played the most delicate character, but that kid Alfie Williams playing Spike is so good. Like, he's really pulling so much weight in this movie, and we're talking about a movie that has Ray Fiennes. I never thought a child actor was gonna be the standout, but he just navigates through every emotion so well, and you just buy every emotion with him as a surrogate. But this movie unfortunately falls in the same bucket as something like Raimi's Spider-Man 3, where conceptually and thematically it's rich and brilliant, but so disjointed and unsure of what it wants to be. There's like at least 2 movie scripts in this film, and I'm not really sure why Garland did that. The first half is a very good story about survival where a father and son spend quality time together while we try and piece together the kind of relationship that they have. ATJ, in my opinion, is trying to be the best father he can be. He's protective and wise, and he's not trying to overwhelm Spike with his mentoring, and he's trying to keep pace with whatever Spike can handle. There's tough decisions made, sure, especially when they reach that abandoned house on the mainland, but again, we're talking about a world of infected, dangerous zombies, so he can only keep the training wheels on for so long. And I love their relationship because we also see that his father isn't perfect, and a child having to accept and cope with that while at the same time finding out that there's a sliver of chance of saving a parent is a lot for anyone to take. But then the second half is basically the same trip we did the first time, except with his debilitated mom, which, by the way, I felt like it was too easy for them to escape, but that's besides the point. And again, it's got great stuff there too, where you so desperately want to have faith that it's gonna work out because you've seen Spike's endeavor to get her to meet this mysterious man, all for the slimmest chance of a cure. See what I mean about it seeming like Spider-Man 3? It's unfocused because it spread itself too thin, despite either one of these stories being a great solo story that would have suited this series perfectly. All just for what? Sequel baiting? That's honestly one of the biggest insults for fans of the series, because it feels like the franchise doesn't trust people will want to see the movie unless they leave a trail of unfinished ideas to get them hooked or whatever. One of my favorite ideas introduced in the film was that between the infected, they were able to form somewhat of a hierarchy. It was really cool. I wish the solution to stopping that behemoth wasn't so flaccid or lackluster, but that's besides the point. As I said before, this movie is just set up for the next movie, and not only did it take almost 2 decades to make the thing, but that ending, man. Clearly there was some closure with the second script that the movie was leaning on, but on top of that, it literally had an MCU style last scene, making sure you questioned, wait, so that's referring to the opening shot, right? And you can't help but question, who was I following this whole time then if not them? It was unintentionally funny, at least I hope so, just because of how random it was. The tone of the movie was decently consistent, except for the last bit with Ray Fiennes' character, because for the most part this movie is a serious emotional journey, and instead of feeling defeated and sad, it ended up just feeling so awkward and borderline goofy just because of how it was executed. What should have been treated as emotional payoff ended up feeling like the worst punchline, reminding me of Ralph Ennison in The Witch, where for any and all problems he faced, he would just chop up more wood to solve it. Ultimately, the pieces for a great entry in the franchise were there, but it didn't come together well. Crimes is spreading itself too thin, I guess. And it wasn't awful, it's just if you're gonna make us wait this long, it's gotta be a tighter script than that. But that's it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe, and sincerely yours, Anthony.